nice. And so this is very modern construction. This is a preferred method for distributing water. And so it looks to me like where the water comes in the house here, and then it travels through our first isolation valve. And this is the primary pressure reducing valve. And so it looks like it has a max inlet pressure of 480 psi. Then we have our water meter. Then we come forward. This looks like it tees, but that's just a leg. It's just holding it up. It's capped right there. So the water's only flowing this way. And then right here, we've got a nice handy label on it from our home inspector. Water sprinkler system shut off, very good. And that's what this is. Now this right here, so that turns the water on or off to the sprinkler system. This is a drain. And it looks like if you open up that drain, this would be a good spot. You want to put a bucket to catch a little bit of that water in the future. The main line is the part of the sprinkler system that's under pressure all the time. After the control valve that goes to the sprinkler heads, it's only under pressure when the zone is operating. So out here, we don't put thread tape on threads and that kind of stuff because, I mean, quite technically, the whole sprinkler system is a controlled leak. It's a controlled distribution of water. We don't want anything leaking on the main line of the sprinkler system because it will leak 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So now I'm going to turn off this ball valve. I'm going to turn off that test port. And now I'm going to push water into the pressure vacuum breaker. And that little thing it just did, that's normal. The first test I'm going to do is I'm going to test to make sure what our pressure is at. And right now it says our pressure is at 65 psi. That's good. That's an adequate pressure. Now this looks like a blowout port. And you see it's at an angle too. So we're going to close it. And now we're going to open up these valve boxes. These types of control valves are called Rainbird 100 DV. It's a good valve. It's a valve that I still install new to this day. So that's good to see. You've got 1-inch black poly pipe attached to 5 of the valves. This little canister here tells me that this valve is for a drip system. So we've got a 6-zone manifold. We do have over here a poly pipe feeding the manifold. It's double crimped. It's that green poly pipe, which is a version of the CRE blue poly that we use. This drain, this is the manifold drain. And when you open it, it allows the water out of the manifold. So we're going to close it because we don't want the water leaving the manifold because we're about to turn things on. And it's just going to flood that box full of water. The other thing we do is our team will sometimes open up the solenoids when we do the blowout. So we make sure that they're all finger tight. And they are. Turn this valve on, sending the water downstream. So what I'm going to do is slowly start to run it. I might hear some chattering, which is the control valve closing for the first time in a long time. Okay, didn't really hear any chattering, so that's fine. Sometimes the control valves will stick open after they've been shut all winter. They lose their flexibility. There's like a little rubber disc in there, almost like a frisbee, and it flexes to open and shut. So now that We have pressurized the water in here. We're gonna do our first test to see if there's any leaking on the main line of the sprinkler system. If I keep my gauge on here and I'm reading the pressure in this pipe and I turn the water off that's sending pressure to it, and I want my pressure to stay the same, it means that nothing's escaping. If something is escaping, that needle is going to start to move.
Okay.
And then one thing that I'll do is I'll push this and see if it moves again, and I didn't see it move. So in this case, the system is holding pressure, which means that it will pass our mainline integrity test, which is essential, because if you had a leak here and it never stopped, this is some of the most expensive leaks you can get. So we want our watering to start early enough in the morning to be done approximately within 30 minutes of sunrise. So we water early AM so that it's done watering by no later than 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Some people like to water at 9 p.m., but it promotes mildew growth in your yard. I don't suggest it. So if we go to 5 a.m. and 5 zones water for 20 minutes, that's what, an hour and 40 minutes of runtime. That means by 6:40 a.m. the zones are done running.
Right.
You know, that's the thing. I love this timer. Very, very reliable, but it's only going to do what you tell it to do. The way that my smart timers work is we program them for peak season watering, and based on actual weather compared to historical weather patterns, it automatically changes that seasonal adjustment percentage every single day.
Right.
You have a choice right now. I, in general, don't like to operate control valves manually. However, for the sake of time, I can make a very fast assessment because the timer's inside the basement. So instead of having to make 5 trips up and down, I can instead make a couple less trips up and down. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and operate the zones manually. I'll only allow manual zone operation if it's a Hunter PGV, Rainbird 100DV, or Irritual 2400T control valve, because if you do cause a problem, the repair isn't going to involve digging up this box. All right, so let's go ahead and fire it up. Fastest way to do that is to hit this little bleed valve right here. See, it discharges pressure from the upper side of the diaphragm, allowing the valve to open. So this is a good example of an included adjustment. The sprinkler nozzle is only watering maybe 120 degrees, needs to water 180. Open up our pattern on that adjustable nozzle. Another included adjustment. We've got these shapes like this, especially against concrete hardscape. It can be difficult. You're going to have overspray like you've got right here. You see the water hitting the spot. But that head has to kick back and do that, or else it's not sufficiently going to water that one spot of the grass. It's just sort of the nature of a lot of curvatures, especially around concrete. I'm looking as well for evidence of a lateral line break, perhaps a big puddle in the grass that could all of a sudden appear. I don't see it. When you turn them off manually, you have to wait a little bit longer to get them to turn off. And I put my screwdriver on top here because I can feel it turn off. Now that head is watering in the middle of that bed, so it's not kicking behind it very well, but it's going to be a lot of roots in there, and I'm afraid if we try to relocate that head, we're going to do more damage than good. We don't want to jeopardize the health of this tree. That needs more water because of its proximity to the street. So the street, the blacktop, gains a lot of thermal mass. And that thermal mass transitions into these medians between the sidewalk and the street of much higher evaporation and higher soil temperatures. So more water out there totally makes sense. I'm considering whether or not we should do an MP conversion for the perennials right here, as well as the sprinkler heads watering the grass, because we would create disproportionate watering precipitation in this area, and we would have higher precipitation in that area. And it could be the effect that we're going for. Here's the type of head you have. That looks familiar, right?
Yeah.
That's that guy right there. That Hunter PGP head may be the most popular sprinkler head installed in the world. They're everywhere. But here's the problem with them. Depending on the size nozzle that you put in, this is 2.0 is real common. See, it says precipitation rate inches per hour, 0.33 inches per hour. And that square stands for quadrated coverage, which means it's called head-to-head coverage. So the sprinkler head on this side yard has to reach all the way to this one, and this one has to reach all the way over. If you don't have head-to-head coverage, you end up with dead spots right here and here. A 90-degree rotor waters the area of grass twice as fast as a 180-degree rotor. So you're never going to achieve balanced precipitation with stream rotors, especially in residential zones where you have 90s and 180s and different degrees of arc. So what we're going to use is we're going to use the MP rotators. And when I'm talking with my clients about converting zones to MP rotators, I will typically quote the price of the zone, not the price of the individual heads. Because you got to adjust, you got to do the entire zone. You got to balance the coverage on the entire zone. You can't just do one sprinkler head with an MP rotator, because the MP rotator has the slowest rate of precipitation of any sprinkler head on the market. And that's a problem if you've mixed the MP rotator with other zones. So we're going to use our standard spray body, which is our Pro Spray PRS 40. PRS stands for pressure reducing stem. So in the stem of this sprinkler head, there's a pressure regulator that makes sure the nozzle pressure is 40 PSI to the T. Then we're going to put our MP rotator on it. We've got a whole suitcase full of them. We're going to use ones that throw 3000s and 2000s, depending on the footage that we need to get. And then so we're going to put all new heads, all new MPs. Some of the head spacing is kind of monkey business, and I'm going to show you how we're going to balance that head spacing. So we're going to be moving some of the heads as well. And then we're going to fire everything up for our customer, and they can see how amazing their yard's going to look and how they're going to be able to see the difference in the coverage just with the MP rotator. And it's going to take over the next few years and just replace the zones.